everybody. It is Monday, March 6th, 2023, and you are watching the Wrestling Republic Daily Broadcast. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and today, to discuss AEW Revolution, I am joined by, firstly, to my right, Soul. How are you, Soul?
I am feeling refreshed. I was live showing the show on the Instagram page, picking the perfect music for us as always. MVP Republic is back. What a show. I loved it. Could not gush over it anymore. So let's just get right into this.
Absolutely. It was certainly a top show. And now to my left, we have the head of opinions, Anthony Ricciardi. How are you today, Anthony?
Doing all right. It was fun watching along with the watch party and now with Soul. So it should be, and Clark and Cope. So it should be fun to talk about it live on air.
Absolutely. And, there's often a joke that Soul is more leaning towards AEW, whereas me and Anthony perhaps at times lean more towards WWE. But in all actuality, I think we all very much enjoyed last night's pay-per-view, and we're breaking it down today match for match. And of course, the show opened with Ricky Starks facing Chris Jericho, and this was a match where I said Ricky Starks should win. He needs to win. He needs to establish himself as a top guy in the company. And to my almost surprise, actually, after you guys kind of sold me yesterday on Jericho winning, that it would happen, Starks did win. The JAS did actually kind of get involved. I mean, Sammy ran out before Andrade took him out on the ramp, but I mean, isn't that a disqualification? Or I guess the ramp doesn't count as ringside, but that was a bit weird. And of course, the graphic which was posted last week, where it said that everyone was banned from ringside, AEW took that post down and reposted just the JAS were banned from ringside. So I mean, it was a bit confusing why they made that change, I guess. But the important thing is Ricky Starks won, and it was a solid match to start the show. Both Jericho and Starks looked great. And yes, Starks is now, could be said, for a proper main event push once again. So I'm absolutely thrilled by that. But Anthony, let's start with you. What were your thoughts on the contest?
I thought it was a solid match. And, as I said yesterday, Starks was the right man to win it. Jericho is an established veteran, legend, whatever you want to call him, future Hall of Famer. His role right now in the business is to promote the next generation. And putting Starks over was the right move. My only complaint with this match was the quasi but not official run-in with Sammy Guevara. I think that took away a little bit from the match. It wasn't necessary. Him in action fighting, them fighting on the outside, it wasn't necessary for this match. This match was solid as it was. I don't think that was needed.
Absolutely, yeah. Some great points you made there, and I mean, it didn't feel needed. It did not feel needed at all, the run-in, but they did what they did, and yeah, I mean, at least Ricky won. That's my viewpoint on it. It got the crowd going, and at least Ricky won. What about you, Saul? Did you enjoy this match?
Oh, I absolutely loved this match, and also added to a fascinating statistics that Jericho has lost all of his matches at Revolution. The first one, he lost the title to Moxley. Then it was him and MJF trying for the tag titles. Then Eddie Kingston last year. And now Ricky Starks, he's lost again. So this is going to be Jericho's streak in AEW maybe. Will next year uphold the streak, shall we say? Who knows? But let's go on to the match. The match itself was absolutely hard-hitting, fascinating, and utter joy. I will be inclined to agree with you, gentlemen, that yes, Sammy coming out in action was unnecessary, and it kind of diminished from it. We all agreed for it, Anthony, on the watch party last night, and you can hear me there. I swear by the Bible. I swear, the Scout's oath. That happened. But it was a solid start to the show, and I think it was probably one of the best picked match they could have started the show with. So I was all happy with it.
Yeah, it truly was one of those matches where it was one of those matches where it definitely deserved to start the show, and it should have started the show in terms of it was a good short match that could get the crowd going. The only other one which I would have considered putting first was the trios match, but then you do risk the the possibility of burning the crowd out too early. So I really, in fact, the entire match order last night, I really did like. And numero one, Superflies in the commenting, AEW Revolution was a great show with most of the matches delivering. But do you think AEW went a bit overboard with the blood throughout the show? And we're going to get a little bit more into that later on tonight, but great question there. And we certainly will be answering it. But yeah, I mean, where do you think, what do you think's next for Ricky Starks, Anthony? Do you think perhaps he could be having a rematch with MJF in the near future? Or do you think it's probably more the TNT title picture he's going to be pushed towards?
I could see him going for either the TNT or Mid-Atlantic right now. Realistically, I don't think he would go straight for MJF. I think Ricky is one of those rare talents under the AEW banner that could go verbally with MJF, and there's not too many that can. So it is very much an incentive, but even during the press thing and what I said yesterday, Adam Cole seems to be possibly in the running here as a potential next guy in this feud.
Yeah, and I think the press conference afterwards, we'll get into a bit later as well, kind of made it a bit clear the few possible options there are. But what about you, Sol? Do you think perhaps Starks... Do you think, I mean, one possibility, I guess, is that Hobbs does win the TNT Championship on Dynamite this week off Wardlow, making him the shortest TNT champion in history. I think it's actually possible they do. But maybe they then do Starks versus Hobbs. Or are you hoping that they will keep the title on Wardlow? So
I would be so hot potatoing.
Yeah, that's it. I don't want that to be hot potato. The TNT title is a title I really like. Also, I go into wrestling in 2019, and that's kind of like the first title I saw its inception and lineage. I mean, not the 24/7. I don't talk about that crap. But
no one does.
I just don't want. I don't want it being hot potatoes. I feel like Wardlow's got something good going on, and he had injuries during his first run, so he could get his proper dominant run done right. I think maybe Starks might cost Hobbs the title, something like that, because Starks and Hobbs is the money and the story as well. And I know they had their match at All Out. We ain't talking about that. So I feel like they could have a really big, proper blow-off feud. I mean, heck, something I wouldn't mind as well if Hobbs takes the FTW title off Hook and he holds that ransom like over to Taz, like, this is your pride and joy. And Taz is like, I just want that belt just to retire it with a champion. And he goes to Ricky. Ricky, you're a champ, my son. Get my belt, bring it back to me, and let's put it to rest. And that's basically Stark's goal, is to bring back the FTW title to retire it with honor.
How does that help Hook? Like, it's just in the all fairness, how does Hook play into any of that scenario?
Because Hook will be there, all
cheering Ricky on. Is that where we're going with this?
Starks, help!
Hook's getting a cheerleading gimmick. Come on,
please, it'll be better than booked than Dominic and his mammy.
Certainly a take, but let's move on now to the next match, and this was the final burial match, and this was between Jack Perry, Jungle Boy, versus Christian Cage, and yeah, this was great. They ended the feud in a good way. I was a bit confused what this was, but it kind of was a buried alive thing. Apart from there was no digging afterwards. I would have liked Jungle Boy to grab even after winning the match. I would have liked him to start, throwing the soil down there with a shovel, because it was kind of pointless it being there even. But whatever, it did feel intense. The crowd was really into it, and it was a really good ending to this story finally. So now hopefully Jungle Boy can move on, and he of course got the victory, which I'm super happy about as well. He can move on now and be pushed into the main event picture too. And this is a bit of a theme throughout the night. We saw a lot of the younger stars getting victories and getting pushed, which I'm all for. I've said it time and time again, that's what AEW need to do, and they did it last night. So well done to them. But I mean, I did think it looked a bit lame when Christian went into the casket and he shut it. Until then, it dropped down. And I actually thought the thing of it dropping down and how quickly it dropped was actually quite a cool visual. But still, I mean, it was a weird way of doing a buried alive match, but it did feel it worked. It worked. It felt like a good end to this feud, and now Jungle Boy can hopefully move on. But what were your thoughts, Sol?
I love this. I mean, I was saying to Anthony all that on the watch party, I was just hoping Jungle Boy was going to be there for the whole show, just putting more dirt on. Like you cut away and like, oh, there's Jungle Boy still putting more dirt on Christian's grave. And he's going to be there right until the end of the Iron Man match. But for what it was fun. I loved it. I loved the whole concerto spot as well. Jungle Boy just says, nah, screw it, bonks him on the head, puts him in the coffin, puts him in the wee little sleepy position, kisses him on the forehead, plop, drop down like the Tower of Terror. Loved it. This was a very good ending to the storyline as well. And I wonder what's next for Jungle Boy is the main thing. Does he go for a title? Is he going to go after somebody? But I think where he and maybe two others are going to go is the future we'll talk about when we get to the press conference, because it would be my prediction. I called it, so you can't say shit. You heard it first here.
What about you, Anthony? What were your thoughts on the final burial match?
I really liked the match, and one of the things that I think really needs to be praised is Christian, because you could tell the ring psychology was used in there. You could tell the guys that are WWE alumni because you see ring psychology more in their matches as opposed to the AEW original guys. And you could tell Christian, based on the experience we've seen Christian over the years, you could see his fingerprints on there, that everything meant something. Everything led to something else. There was a lot of ring psychology there. And one of the things you mentioned, Ben, you wondered why the dirt was there. Christian used that dirt. He threw it in Jungle Boy's face. They did the spot with the shovel, which there was a callback, and we mentioned it during the watch party. It was definitely a callback because Edge has had that happen to him, and he's used it as well. Something in his mouth for a crossface. They've done that. I loved the finish. That when the coffin dropped in that puff of smoke, none of us expected that, and I think all of us that were in that watch party marked out with that because it was so cartoonish. Like it was something that you could see them putting in a video game where that's how the match ends. You throw the guy in the casket and it just drops suddenly, and there's a puff of smoke. It was so cartoonish, but at the same point, it was really fun to watch. And the match wasn't too long. It was the right amount. I really liked the match. It was one of my favorite ones of the night.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I thought the finish looked naff until that happened. I just thought you chucked him in the coffin, and that was it. I was like, it's not really buried alive, is he? And then you just saw it bang, and you heard the bang as well. I mean, I'm actually slightly, considering how fast it dropped, I'm ever so slightly concerned that he might have got a bit of whiplash from it. It must have hurt a little bit, but yeah, I mean,
the puff of smoke was the added. That was the chef's kiss of that.
Yes.
The little puff. That was. Yes. I love that.
I'll propose this to you, gentlemen. We know Christian, signed with AEW in 2021. It's been 2 years. Is this maybe a way to write him off TV if his contract expiring, or are we going to see him return?
Well, he came in March, right? Because he did the Rumble, and then he came in at the first AEW pay-per-view, so that would have been March.
Yeah.
I mean, you figure bare minimum, he signed I would assume 2 to 3 years, but it would be interesting if that was it. I could see Christian Christian likes to put people over, and to put him over in that way, that would be, I didn't think about it like that, but yeah, he might be either retiring or WWE bound if that was it.
Yeah. That'd be perfect ending too. To not only basically this storyline's gone on almost the entire time he's been in AEW, so this being his ending, and for him to be literally buried alive, would be great stuff.
And one other thing to throw in here: let's say Christian's done. We don't know if he has a no compete or whatever it is. WrestleMania's around the corner. Edge is in a feud with Judgment Day. There's talk Edge might be retiring this year. It's got to be him and Christian. If we're going final opponent for the both of them, it's got to be each other, right?
Oh, that would be sick. I'd love to see that, and I hope you are right.
I would just love if Christian comes up, like he just pops up at Mania covered in dirt and just like up.
That would be, I could, yeah. Or he comes out with a shovel. He's got to come out with a shovel.
That'd be cool. And chaos in the comments.
Chaos, you have a child. You have a child in your household. You can't say that kind of language. Jesus Christ, man! I'll get CPS on that. That's terrible. Terrible.
Well, I think they're a little busy with the kid that MJF threw tequila on.
We'll get onto that one later, I'm sure. But let's move on now to the AEW World Trios title match where the House of Black shockingly defeated the Elite in what was one hell of a trios contest. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I did not expect. There's not much to say about this other than I did not expect the House of Black to actually win. Even though I think I did predict them on yesterday's show, I still, when I thought about it more, I was like, actually, I don't think they go into. I think best case they drag the feud out or whatever, but the Elite actually lost, and I don't know what's next for them. And they were super over the Elite in the arena too. But anyway, the House of Black got the victory. I'm so happy about it. Buddy Matthews finally and Malachi Black both finally have titles in AEW. Brody King looked amazing in this match. And yeah, it's altogether a fantastic contest. Anthony, what were your thoughts?
Actually, I really like the match. I mean, typically with an Elite match, you know what you're getting. I mean, it's fast paced, it's high action. You're not exactly going to see ring psychology with an Elite match. But I thought the two teams worked really well together. It was a phenomenal showcase for Brody. Brody's one of those guys that, and the first time I really saw him was Ring of Honor. He's somebody he's always on the cusp. He was always on the cusp of, but it never materialized. I was surprised that the House of Black won. But one of the things you pointed out yesterday, Ben, was there have been some talk that, Kenny and, Tony may not exactly be on the same page with his contract being extended due to injury. And there's rumors and stuff like that. I know we're not getting into that, but I thought that was kind of interesting because I didn't think after doing a best of 7 series, the Elite would want to, nor would Tony want to take the belts off of them that quickly. But between the trios and the TNT, it seems like they're being more willing to switch champions more frequently than you would expect.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Saul? What were your thoughts on this trios contest?
This was probably one of 3 matches I think maybe being my match of the year. I know it's already early, but I loved this. This was so entertaining. I'm glad, I said yesterday in my predictions, I'd be happy if either team won. I'm happy. There was many moments in this match, Matt and Nick playing hot potatoes, like, bring in Brody. Nah, tag me. Nope. It's like, oh, well, shit. And also, one part I really, really loved was the whole Julia Hart bit, getting V-triggered off the ring, and just Kenny was like, all right, back to the match. I was like, Jesus. I was like, oh my God, that's perfect. But see, there was something about like the Elite losing. There was a lot of like jigsaw puzzle pieces out tonight for a particular thing. And I'll get to it when we get to the tag team 4-way because Clark was saying it and I was just like, nah. I was like, oh my God, this could possibly lead to this. So we'll get to that. But yeah, the Elite versus House of Black. I love it. House of Black with the trios titles. They're going to have a lot of interesting feuds, I think. Maybe Death Triangle, AR Fox and Top Flight, Dark Order, Blackpool Combat Club. This will be interesting, and I can't wait to see the whole promos with these guys as champions. This is going to be very, very entertaining.
Yes, absolutely. Great to see they're finally going to be given hopefully more TV time as well. And Chaos is in the comments here saying the trios match was my match of the night with the Bucks, and he believes that the Bucks and Kenny Omega will go their separate ways going forward. And you could be right to a degree there because I do think that the tag team division certainly wasn't looking great last night. So I think with the addition of FTR and hopefully the Bucks to the tag team division, perhaps that could help give it some life once again. And I mean, Kenny Omega, perhaps he's going to be a face Kenny Omega versus MJF. I'd sign up for that. But yeah, let's move on now to the next contest, which was the Fatal 4-Way. Sorry, not Fatal 4-Way. Triple Threat match for the AEW Women's World Title. Jamie Hayter successfully retained. Thank you. Against Saraya and Ruby Soho. The match itself was decent enough. It was, decent, good little match. Ruby Soho basically was just going nuts at everybody throughout the match. She took out Saraya multiple times and Hayter multiple times and all that. And then after the match, turned heel on Jamie Hayter and suddenly was friends with Saraya, despite the fact that a couple of minutes before that, she was like absolutely going wild on Saraya. I mean, I really hated this heel turn. It's the only thing in the night that I actually really properly had an issue with. I did not think the heel turn was done well at all. I have no issue with actually Ruby Soho turning heel and joining the Outsiders, but the way they did it, I was not a fan of it. But what did you think, Anthony?
I mean, that's the thing. This whole angle where they're essentially trying to create the NWO just with the women's division in AEW, the Outsiders versus the Insiders, I just don't think it's hit. I just don't think it's hitting. And I thought it was a decent little match. I am glad Hayter won. I think we all thought Saraya was going to win just based on the contract she probably signed with AEW. But it just the heel turn was such an odd turn at that time. Like, I could see her turning heel to give Saraya the win or something like that, where it's almost reminiscent of Hogan turning on Team WCW, like at Bash at the Beach. But it was, I take the loss now. I'm like, nah, I'm done with them. I just don't think it's playing out the way that they want it to. I want to care about the angle. Unfortunately, I don't. And it's a shame because I really would like to care about this angle. I just don't.
What do you think, Sol?
I'm happy with the results of Jamie retaining. I think there was a lot of, looking into it. Saraya, big contract, big star. Putting the title on her would have probably not done as much of harm I think people were thinking. But I don't mind Ruby's heel turn because I feel like she was sort of like I'm having faith in these guys. They're not going to try and screw me over. I know we're all fighting and it's not really should be friendly, but I got some faith. But then her faith was just shattered. She's just standing there and she's just like, I'm always going to be second best. Screw it. Tax Hater, tax Brit. And, we've got the Riot Squad version 2.0 in AEW. Whoop, whoop. I think it'll be interesting. I got no qualms with it. Was it the weakest match of the night for me? Yeah. But, I'm faithful there are going to be more great things coming out of it. And then what's Jamie going to move on to next? Maybe a returning Thunder Rosa?
Perhaps so. I mean, to be honest, I think this is going towards blood and guts. But, I had no issue with the match itself, to be honest. I thought it was a fun match. I definitely didn't think it was one of the worst women's matches that they've had on AEW's pay-per-views. As obviously they've not given women's matches enough time, and they didn't really last night either. But still, I thought it was a fun match for the time they had. But it just was that heel turn after. I don't know. It just didn't sit right with me. I thought they should have done it during the match.
It was the
or
timing.
They should have built it up a little bit more, perhaps.
It was the timing. The timing is what you had an issue with when they did it.
Yeah, when they did it. But talking about timing, something which got enough time, and I'm glad it got enough time, was Hangman Adam Page versus Jon Moxley. And what a match this was. On yesterday's show, we talked about how we thought that it was going to be an absolute banger, a complete bloodbath, and it truly was one. I enjoyed the hell out of this match. The bleeding from Moxley for once made sense. And I was happy with it. And it just was absolutely brutal. And it wasn't overdone, too. The spots they did were not overdone. They got the exact perfect amount of the brutal spots in without making it feel, for lack of a better reference, Moxley versus Omega-esque in the Lights Out match they did. This match, every spot felt like it meant something. It felt good. And I loved that finish, too. Altogether, this was probably... maybe even not my match of the night, of course, because the main event, but almost my match of the night, and was just extraordinary. I mean, honestly, for me, this was almost a 5-star match, if I'm being honest. But what about you, Sol?
This was my second match on the card I think could be match of the year contender. I love this. Out of all the Texas Death matches in AEW, all three of them, I think this is the best one. Hangman and Mox have got that kind of chemistry that I really, really enjoy. Obviously, being my two favorite wrestlers. Entrances, Hangman getting his own little special entrance music. Oh, perfect. I love the whole red background as well. I just would have loved, wee nitpicky came out with a bandana. I would have liked that. That would have been cool. But great moments in this. Blood was used effectively, I think, in this, because this is a Texas Death match. You're not going there for, inflatables or some kind of that. No beach balls here, folks. But, Mox did the stomp as well on a brick. Seth freaking Rogen callback. Haha. If he hit a spear as well, that would have been absolutely hilarious. But yeah, I love the finish. Hangman hanging Mox like a Hangman Terrier card. beautiful. Loved it. I'm glad Hangman won. Again, where does he go after this? I feel like Hangman could go and maybe into a title picture or something. Maybe MJF or maybe someone else. Maybe a good maybe a good hangover for Double or Nothing at Battle of the Belts or something. But Moxley, for him, I feel like this could maybe be the start of like a more aggressive than we have Mox, or maybe a broken Mox who's a bit psychopathic, a bit of a psychopath and just does whatever he can to brutalize everybody. I feel like we're going to get interesting stuff in this. But yeah, I loved this match. No complaints of it. Second best match on the card.
Yeah, it was truly a banger. But what did you think about it, Anthony?
For me, it was my second favorite match of the night. I mean, it was absolutely brutal. And I'm typically not like a GCW deathmatch guy, but with this rivalry, it made sense for this type of match because they built it on realism. They took a real life scenario with Hangman getting injured, and they made it into this incredible story. So I think it really paid off. You knew it was going to be a bloodbath. Callbacks to hardcore legends like Funk, different moves that they used, and possibly Abdullah the Butcher with the fork, or Homicide. I think Homicide used the fork too at one point. But the finish, which was particularly violent and a graphic image, the hanging with the chain, it's the Hangman's name. He got that in Ring of Honor by putting a noose around Chris Sabin's neck and hanging him the same way. That's where he got the name. So, it was a full circle delivery. I thought, that has to be the blow off. They can't continue this and do another match. This has to be it. And both men have to go off to another direction. I would just hope that this was it for them. I don't know what's next for them, but I thought they delivered exactly what they needed to deliver in this match.
Yeah, and honestly, it is 2-2 now. So I think long term, and by long term I mean 12 to 18 months, I think perhaps for the title or something like that, or a big match, you could do one final match between the two.
Down the road,
but yeah, give it a year.
But not now.
I personally wouldn't mind Moxley winning the IWGP US title again, and maybe having a Texas Death match at Forbidden Door.
I don't think they would do another one with Hangman.
Why not?
I wouldn't do another one with Hangman.
Come on, nah, you're overdoing it at that point. 12 to 18 months down the line, fair enough, but not this quick. But we got a few comments here. Chaos saying it was a very innovative. It was very innovative death match with him rating it 4 out of 5 stars. But Chaos also believes that there were too many false finishes with some moves, should have finished the match.
Nah.
I'm going to be honest, I didn't really have an issue with it, and I'm usually the one who complains about false finishes. But yeah, no, I didn't really have an issue last night. I thought this match was, to be honest, bang on.
I think the rivalry gave it kind of a pass. There was enough heat there to justify it. It does happen a lot of times, especially with Bucks matches. They overdo it. But for this one, I didn't have an issue with it.
No, I didn't either. And we've also got Nero1 Superfly in the comments asking, does Soraya's team in AEW struggle due to them struggling using the spray paint? Why are they continuously using spray paints when every time it looks awful? What is with it? It's like
to be fair, on Zero Hour, if you checked out Zero Hour, Tony.
No one does.
We did. She spray painted that interviewer guy. Was it?
It's so blatant NWO ripoff. It's not even funny.
It's bad.
But at least they're able to.
I'm doing some spray painting on Friday, and I'm sure my spray painting will be better than. It just looks awful. It looks absolutely awful. The green paint just not showing up with the light either. It's just.
All right, screw it. Let's just get them paintball guns. How about that?
Yes. Yeah, there we are. Give them paintball guns. Honestly, I'd actually prefer that. At least at that point, it would be, funny. I don't know what the arenas would say about it, but bit better. At least that's unique.
But Ben, you should post an instructional spray painting video here on the channel.
Okay.
Yeah, there we are. I'll video it. And Jacob's asking, is it illegal spray painting? No. I'm in a studio. Don't worry. But yeah, talking about I was going to say talking about illegal things. There's nothing illegal about this, but it was certainly a blood feud. Moving on now to Wardlow versus Samoa Joe. And Wardlow is TNT champion once again. Hopefully this reign will go better than the last one. But yeah, him and Samoa Joe put on what I would personally say was my least favorite match of the night. However, it was whatever. I mean, I wasn't really expecting much, to be honest. It wasn't like I came out of this really disappointed, but it wasn't great. But Wardlow is champion again, and I'm excited to see what he does with the belt. I mean, Samoa Joe's no longer the king of television, so what will Joe be doing next? Will Wardlow be going for his other belt? Will they do maybe a belt for belt? Hopefully not. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I hope these two just separate now, and Wardlow goes on, has a feud with Hobbs, and maybe even bring Ricky Starks into the equation. Who knows? But what were your thoughts on this TNT Championship match, Anthony?
I think this is one of the two matches going into the show, or one of the three matches that we weren't super excited about. We kind of knew it was going to be it was going to be at least decent, and I think it was. I think it was hard hitting. I think it was a decent match. It didn't necessarily feel like it was going too long. I did find the finish interesting. I was not expecting a sleeper to be the finish of Wardlow beating Samoa Joe, who never tapped out but passed out, which we don't see too much of the pass out. It's usually a tap out or something to that effect. I did like the imagery of him putting Joe to sleep, a man that has an entire history of putting opponents to sleep. So I thought that was a nice play. So I'm hopefully Wardlow goes off. They've teased it at the press conference. It's obviously going to be him and Hobbs. Hopefully that goes a long way. I think Joe's going to end up being Ring of Honor full time, to be honest. Ring of Honor needs him full time because they don't have a real roster to themselves. I mean, most of it is AEW talent that's splitting time. So yeah. I think that's the direction he's probably going to go.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there, Anthony. But what about you, Saul? What was your thought on the match?
I fairly enjoyed it for what it was. It was entertaining. I think Joe and Wardlow put on a very fantastic match. I really enjoyed it. But I actually agree with Anthony about Joe. I feel like Joe's going to go to Ring of Honor and sort of be the main kind of evil bad guy for that brand. I feel like with his TV title, he'll lose it to maybe somebody on the roster. Thinking out my head who really could benefit from it. Maybe someone like AR Fox, he's had history with Joe in the past, wins the TV title. Then Joe wins the world title. We get Samoa Joe, Ring of Honor, Dominant Reign, round 2. Like, it makes sense. Joe, a big name. Ring of Honor was his home pretty much. Put him as the world champion, and then you can have someone rise up to conquer that crazy bastard. So that's why I feel that should happen. Because I feel like Ring of Honor does kind of need the cemented stars. Someone who's always going to be on the posters, always going to be in the card that you can trust and reliably advertise the show. And that's someone I feel like Joe's standard can achieve. He's a great guy, great talent. Give him the Ring of Honor championship in the future.
Interesting. I mean, I've been a Samoa Joe fan over the years. I've been a huge Samoa Joe fan over the years, but this is a hot take, guys. For the last couple of years, I haven't seen one great match from him. It's to the point now where I just don't know anymore in the ring if he never looks bad. Everything he does, he looks great. But it's not, none of his matches are great. They're not really innovative. There's just nothing really special about them. And we've got Numero One Superfly in the comments saying Wardlow versus Samoa Joe was a bit of a letdown. Also, this was just me, but Wardlow kind of looks like just a guy with what he wore. Not hating on him, but just it was what I saw. I mean, the hair with obviously the man bun thing, it got cut off because of the storyline, right? So I didn't really have much of an issue with that because at least it was part of the storyline. But I'm really hoping it does go back soon as, it did make him look a lot better. And we've got Chaos here saying, I showed the message. Chaos here saying Wardlow will likely lose to Powerhouse Hobbs on this week's episode of AEW Dynamite. Then Wardlow can go on feud with MJF. Basically, Chaos saying that Hobbs is going to win because you can't have him lose the Ring of the Revolution or whatever it's called. But
You mean the Sonic the Hedgehog ring? Because that's
yeah,
what I
Sonic the
think. That's what I see every
is
time I see it.
pretty much what it is at this point. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of this match, but it was what it was. I didn't really have a massive issue with it. But talking about something which I didn't like. I mean, I guess not. I didn't have a massive issue with it because I had zero expectations. I had an issue with it going in. But we had the AEW World Tag Team Title 4-way, where the Guns defeated the Acclaimed, Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett, and Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. And I still don't know why this was on a pay-per-view. The match was fine. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was fine. It probably was the worst AEW Tag Team Title match in pay-per-view. But whatever. We didn't expect it to be any good, so it's not like I'm going to be complaining even more about it. I complained about it on yesterday's show. And yeah, everything I said that was going to happen happened. Apart from Jeff Jarrett didn't do a guitar spot. They did it to him instead. But yeah, it was whatever. The big story was that after the match, FTR returned to AEW to save this tag team division. I mean, I really would have preferred FTR versus the Acclaimed, but whatever. Hopefully they just squash the Guns and we can move on from all this mess. But yeah, the AEW Tag Team Division needs FTR right now, and that's a great. Hopefully they've signed new deals, and if they have, that is a great get for AEW because they've proven time and time again how good they are. But Anthony, I'll go to you first. What was your thoughts on this fatal 4-way tag match?
I don't really want to beat a dead horse with this. I've said it multiple times. There was no reason this thing should have been a 4-way. I mean, the match was what it was. It was probably the weakest match on the card. I mean, going into the show, none of us wanted a 4-way. It had a couple entertaining things like Danhausen mimicking Orange on the way out, which I thought was kind of funny, even though I'm not an Orange guy, but I am a Danhausen guy. FTR coming out, I think that the $1 million question is whether or not they sign new contracts or not, or if they're coming in literally just to put somebody over before they leave. And with FTR, you really don't know, especially with Dax, who, seems to say a lot of things and burn a lot of bridges in multiple different spots, depending upon what his take is. So I don't know what their future holds, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, what about you, Sol? Do you have any idea?
For the match for what it was, I personally enjoyed it. There's nothing really too wrong with it. I feel like it was entertaining for what it was. The guys in the ring there are able to put on a match, and I loved it. Even the spot with Jarrett and Lethal and the Guns doing the 4-way scissor, entertaining and funny. Loved it. But with FTR returning and a lot of other things this night, as I said before, jigsaw pieces were falling in. There was a lot of puzzle places being put in for something. And bloody Clark, love the boy, but he was saying things and I was thinking, no, it couldn't be. And then it was just turning my head. I don't know whether to mention this now or wait until we get to the press conference because that's when more of it drops. What do you think, Ross, man?
We'll wait until I've got some time for the main event. We're going to have 20 minutes to talk about the main event. So yes, keep it for then and we'll talk the press conference on the main event and all of that.
Sounds good to me.
But yeah, I mean, AEW was meant to be the place of tag team wrestling, right? And this is why I had a match, like a serious tag team wrestling, and that's why I had an issue, right? And obviously the Acclaimed isn't always serious, but it worked. They got the gimmick over, and when it was in ring, it was serious, right? However, it's almost like TK's used that opportunity to turn the entire division now into like a jokey storyline. And it just doesn't work. You're meant to be the place where serious tag team wrestling is going on. That was the main advantage over, tag team going to AEW over WWE. Because if I was in 2019, 2020, 2021 even, a tag team, and I was a free agent and had contracts from both companies, I probably would go AEW. Because that is the place of tag team wrestling, right? And yeah, I mean, this just was not up to the usual standard. But whatever, FTR is back now. And hopefully things moving forward will be good for them. And I think the Young Bucks will be returning to the tag team division too, because I get the feeling that TK has been reading some of the hate AEW's been getting recently, as the way this card was actually booked in terms of the winners. it was a lot of the young guys who were winning. It was a lot of the AEW homegrown guys that were winning, and it was a lot of what fans wanted too. So I do think TK is listening and is trying to get out of this slump, which AEW's currently been in as of recent. But let's talk about now the main event of the evening. MJF Maxwell Jacob Friedman defended his AEW World Championship against Bryan Danielson in a 60-minute Iron Man match, which actually ended up being, I think, 66 minutes, I think. And it was truly phenomenal. I said on yesterday's show that I wasn't sure how it was going to go because in all honesty, the last few years, there's been quite a few, not AEW, but just in all of professional wrestling, quite a lot of Iron Man matches which just have felt unimportant for the first half of the match, or even in the first 75% of the match. But this felt important throughout, and it was brilliant. I absolutely loved the spot where MJF hit a low blow to lose one fall, and then did 2 pins following that to then make it even. I thought it was brilliant, super smart. And it's one of those things where you're like, why don't they do that when you're talking about it normally? But they did that today, and I really did enjoy it. I actually didn't have an issue with it going to overtime. It was blatantly obvious that was what was going to happen when it got to the last few minutes. But the way it ended, I loved it. MJF making Danielson tap out, it was phenomenal. Truly, this is one of my favorite Iron Man matches of all time. I'll go as far as saying that. And not only that, I'll actually go as far as say I think this might be my favorite AEW match of all time because this was perfect. And MJF once again proved why the bidding war of 2024 is going to be really interesting because it is it's in both WWE's and AEW's interest to keep him. Because damn, he is good in the ring. He's good on the mic. He sells pay-per-views well and sells you on matches. And yeah, this feud wasn't even that great going in. I complained about it throughout, but they executed it perfectly. And of course, all credit to Bryan Danielson again. I mean, I guess we're not giving him as much credit because we expect it from him, although we shouldn't because he is just that damn good. It is absolutely brilliant and well and truly one of the best AEW main events, and I should have been more excited for it. I'll say that now, Sol. I will say it. But what about you, Anthony? What were your thoughts on this Wrestling Republic 5-star match?
I mean, I really like this match. My only complaint going into it, and I said this on a daily, was I felt the build-up really didn't fit an Iron Man match. When I look at an Iron Man match, I think of endurance, I think of technical stuff, and I know that's in Bryan's wheelhouse. But there was so much animosity there and heat and talking about taking people out. It felt more along the lines of something like an I Quit or something like that. But what they delivered in that ring was kind of like a hybrid of both in the sense that it was so violent, which typically Iron Man matches aren't violent like that. I mean, at one point MJF was bleeding like nobody's business, and I don't know if he was busted open the hardware or he bladed. I couldn't tell because I don't know when he could have bladed after the headbutt. I don't know if the ref got him. I don't know if he did it. I thought it was a really well played match. We know how good Bryan is. I mean, he was trained by Shawn Michaels and he was mentored by William Regal. We know he knows the technical business. He's been at the top of the mountain in this business. Every company he's been in, he's defied the odds. MJF is a student of the game. You knew the ring psychology would be there. And that's what I love. I love good storytelling and ring psychology. I like things being done for a reason, not just doing it for the sake of doing it. So like you said, the low blow to get two pins versus losing one. That's mind games. That's brilliant. And it didn't feel like an hour. They played it so well. MJF just being the complete terror that he is, whether it was taunting the camera when he was holding Bryan, taunting, his kids, or of course the incident in the crowd with the other kid that threw the water, tequila, whatever he threw on the kid. I mean, it was so well done. It was my match of the night. It may well be my match of the month on my list. Right now, it's the front runner. I don't anticipate anybody else topping it, but again, we're only 6 days in the month. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but it's definitely one of the best matches I've seen in a while.
Yeah, undoubtedly. And I mean, obviously, that tequila spot, it wasn't good in terms of, it's no. It's tequila in the eye of a kid. It wasn't good. But obviously, MJF didn't know that. He did not know it was tequila.
Oh, I don't believe you. I don't believe he knew that. I think
he looked like water. It looked like water.
Listen, MJF is an asshole character. Yeah. We all know that, and he plays kayfabe well. I don't believe for an instant that he would have threw that in the kid's face if he knew it was tequila.
It was not deliberate. Absolutely.
No. It's been all sorted now. Tony mentioned on the media scrum that the wee kid, Tyrus is his name, all been sorted now. How do we speak there? And there's also nice wee little footages of Rayleigh's wife, Amanda Huber, sitting with the child as well and having we talk to her. He also got to meet Hobbs as well. So, what it was.
And he got a lot of merch too.
Yes, for that. But the merch, the most important thing.
He'll get free tickets probably for life. That kid will be taken care of. He'll get over this. He'll be fine.
He'll look back now at wrestling training and be like, yes, my origin story has begun.
I think TK, wanted to get in there very quickly and make sure that there was no lawsuit following this. But it sounds like the kid, ended up having a great time, and he's got tickets for another AEW event coming up. So hopefully he's all good now. But Saul, what were your thoughts on the match itself before we get into that press conference, which I know we're all dying to talk about?
Oh, yes, of course. Let me start off with the entrances. Brian's entrance was nice and simple, and I feel like that also fits his character. He just likes to wrestle and do his own thing. He doesn't need the flashiness. He doesn't need the, extreme entrance. He just needs to go out there and do his thing. MJF, the kind of guy he is, his entrance fit him to a T. I love that gear. Anthony, when we get in a figure of that, what do you think? I mean, if that's a ringside exclusive, let's get that pre-ordered right now. But even with the whole music thing, I don't know how it was for you guys watching, because when we were watching it live, we thought the music was muted and not coming through correctly. But I think looking through my going on Fight again, reading it was fine, no issues. So that's cool. And also Mikey Ruckus made that in the evening of the show. He's a talented individual. Well done to him. But yeah, this match was something, man. I mean, we had the whole Revolution voting thing. We had Hangman and Kenny versus the Bucks as the best Revolution match. I think this might beat Punk and MJF. I really like this. And I saw that match live, and I gush over that any chance I can get. But there was something about this match that it was like just seeing pure art being made in the ring. It was like watching Picasso painting his masterpieces. It was just so entertaining, from just Brian just hot dogging at the start and doing his jumping jacks, I'm warming up, I'm ready for this, getting the first fall as well. MJF being hydrated as anything. I mean, God, how dehydrated was that boy? He was like water guzzling every single moment you could get outside the ring. Moments as well, I loved the whole just MJF was like, his facial expressions, man, the bunging of his eyes, he was just like, pain, I'm enduring pain, I just need to get to the rope, I need to do what I can, just endure it. And that was just such good storytelling. And that's the thing about these kind of, Brian and MJF, I feel like not only do they tell stories for their words, but they tell stories for their body language, and I love that. That MJF, even though he was crimson masked to hell high, was still able to convince the story that, yes, this is a despicable human being, but right now he's feeling pain beyond any imaginable relief right now. And one moment I loved so much in this was, and I think it was after the overtime, MJF is about to hit Brian with a diamond ring and the rest turn away. Then Brian's wee counter, he goes into the corner and he does like a yes chant. And Brian has said that, I don't want to do the yes chant in AEW, it was a WWE creation. And I wonder if that was just adrenaline taking over. Not planning it, he was just like, I'm feeling the crowd, let's just, and the crowd just launched into it like it had never been gone. And I loved that. And honestly, I felt like there was moments like you thought, Brian could win this. Brian could actually win this. And just, I love the whole tap out as well. We see tap out, they're like ferocious and like, yeah, just get it over and done with. But Brian, it was just like, you're the better one. You beat me, just going with it. He was just like, yeah, I'm not tapping out because I'm struggling or in pain. I'm tapping out because I'm exhausted and I know I can't keep going on. I mean, the man got hit by a goddamn oxygen cylinder. I mean, hey, at least they put the masks on correctly this time. Am I right? You know.
Oh gosh.
I do have to say that the camera work that they did, especially with MJF on sitting on the floor waiting for Brian to hit him, I thought that was actually really well done. Actually, in all seriousness, that was phenomenal.
No, I completely do agree with you there. And Numero One Superflies in the comments saying that when MJF was on the press conference, I laughed when he gave someone a pickle and talked about how great the pickle was. And I think it was actually a brand deal because they've done an Instagram post for him today. So I think it was a very smart brand deal from MJF.
And the pickles are sold out now. The pickles are sold out.
They're sold out now as well. So it clearly worked and it was a good investment if that was the case.
You think they won from they learned from Mindy's?
Yeah.
You think they
we'll get into the press conference now, because let's talk about all these puzzle pieces, because this is driving me crazy.
Yeah, well, we're gonna get right into that now. Right after the show, MJF did what AEW always do, the normal press conference, the presser that they do, and MJF hinted at a few possible opponents, with the big one being Hangman. Coming out of this press conference, it really did seem like the Hangman was where it was seemingly going. Adam Cole was also mentioned, though Adam Cole was certainly mentioned too, with MJF saying that he's seen Adam Cole's tweets and he's not happy about it. But it was Hangman, which he went on a real bit of a rant about. And I mean, maybe part of that could be because the entire press conference, he was mimicking what CM Punk did at All Out. So, I mean, perhaps that's actually why he went so hard on Hangman. But, so I'm going to go to you first because I know you're out to explode with what you want to say. So what is the theory that you have and what Clark said last night to you?
Okay, before that, I want to get into what my prediction was for this year. I had a prediction that the main event of Double or Nothing would be the 4 Pillars Fatal 4-Way. He mentioned it. Double or Nothing has happened. I'm calling it right now. That's what our Double or Nothing main event is going to be, a 4-way pillar match for Sammy Guevara, Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and MJF for the title. He mentioned it. You heard it here first. Lock it down. But let's get into the whole puzzle thing, right? We started this show, and Clark is always usual. Punk's going to come back. Punk's going to come back. And I'm always there just like, yeah. You say that. You enjoy your brandy, right? But then the Elite lost the Trios title. Okay, no big deal. Maybe they can do something else. And then FTR returned. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And then throughout the whole Iron Man match, what's MJF shouting? I'm the best in the world. I'm the best in the world. And yes, people will be like, oh, that's Brian's thing. Brian doesn't have a best in the world t-shirt. Brian was never really going around saying, I am the best in the world. He was just saying, I'm a great wrestler. I'm the best technical wrestler out there. And then the whole press conference. The dude's bloody as everything like Punk, has the towel around the neck, has a brand deal food right in front of him that he's flaunting. And Punk was mentioned. Punk's got new figures coming out. Look, I don't care if he comes back, right? He left in quite a state. And I've always joked that, yeah, this ain't happening. But last night, there's a lot of puzzle pieces coming together. And with FTR coming back and maybe winning the titles off the Guns, Bucks could challenge them and then they lose and be like, we need another third person. We got Kenny. FTR maybe bring in Punk. I don't know if it's going to happen. Will it happen? But hell of a, there's a lot of puzzle pieces that could fit in right now, and it's kind of insane. It's kind of insane.
Yeah. No, I mean, I do get what you're saying completely, so and I still think that if he does come back, he's going to be nowhere near the Elite. I don't think that's something which is going to be solvable in the near future. But what I do think, right, obviously the MJF press conference was definitely a nod towards CM Punk. However, I'm not sure if that was because of the brand deal, which MJF had, that maybe the pickle company saw about the Mindy's Bakery and all that and decided that they wanted to profit off it. So, and they wanted MJF to do it all like that because clearly MJF got some money off them. So I don't actually know if that's the reason why. But perhaps Punk is returning, and perhaps the Elite have lost some of their, power backstage, and that's why the Punk will be coming back. But I certainly don't think Punk will be going anywhere near, near the Bucks or Kenny for the time being.
Well, I mean, also, you were there. You were there last night. I mean, you could agree that we were all thinking it, right?
I mean, honestly, Punk is still technically under AEW contract.
Yes.
So in theory, he could return at any time, especially if Tony enforces the contract and go, you're under contract. You either show up or I sue you for breach. Punk's happy to return.
Punk is happy to return, the
Well,
issue's
I'm just saying, like, if it became an issue, if he returns, I would not be shocked if he makes out some deal with them and he goes and he does Ring of Honor with Samoa Joe.
Yeah.
I think they're keeping them separate. I honestly do not believe the egos involved in that whole scenario are going to be willing to put everything aside. All of them. I'm not saying just one. I just don't think they would be willing to put it aside to do business. They should, because it's a lot of money to be made. I just don't think they will.
No, and I honestly don't think that I don't think that'll be possible, because I don't think Ring of Honor will be profitable enough for Punk's contract to be worth it. But I mean, maybe, I guess it's still better than paying it off, right? So maybe. But honestly, I do think that if Punk returns, it'll be to AEW. But I think he just won't be involved with the Bucks and Kenny. And I think if he does return, it means it's basically a fact at that point that Bucks and Kenny are going to be jumping to WWE. I think that's what it'll mean if Punk does return. And I think there's a possibility that's why Kenny lost the titles last night. And I think perhaps now Tony Khan's realized that Kenny's not signing a new deal. That crap, I've lost them. Well, then I'm not gonna let them have the power. And instead, I'm gonna bring back Punk.
That's what it came down to. Tony ultimately had to make a decision. And it's, I know Tony wants to be friends with everybody, but at the end of the day, you're the boss of the company. You got to do what's best for the company. So, I mean, the simple is going, well, there's 4 people on this side versus 1 Punk.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Punk is a significantly bigger draw than the other 4 combined. If we're being realistic, Punk is the bigger name than all of them. If we're being real, as far as money and generation, if Tony really wants him and Kenny is on the fence of whether or not he's going to stay, I kind of feel like, and I've said this before, and I don't know if I said it on here or just personal, or just with the chat or whatever. I kind of feel that Kenny and the Bucks are a package deal. I really don't see one leaving without the others. Hangman's a little mystery, even though he's tied to them. I think the Bucks and Kenny are a little bit more tied together, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, Hangman has said he's AEW for life. Even very recently, he said that.
Yeah.
Post Brawl Out, he said that.
I want to say as well that, I mean, like, if I don't think, like, I know the whole Cody Rhodes thing, but I don't think the Bucks and Kenny are going to leave at all.
He's turned down a new contract. They've had to extend time, which is, whether you like it or not, extending time on an existing contract is not something you do if all's well. It's not. It means that he's considering leaving.
Your hand's forced.
He's probably waiting for it to do with the Bucks and all that and try and get the most money out they can. That's what I think. But I mean, like, let's say they go, right? Let's say they go, what could AEW lose? I mean, we heard the crowd last night for the Bucks and Kenny. They're loved by the AEW audience. The whole "Let's Go Kenny" chants and everything. They lose people who work behind the scenes. They'll lose BTE, which is a great thing for them because it's a really good insight and gives people other screen time. That's how the Dark Order got over it in the first place. They'll lose BTE. Brandon Cutler will go, and he's done a lot of media stuff.
Brandon Cutler doesn't matter. Honestly, so
he doesn't
want him. He doesn't want Nakazawa. He doesn't want either one of them. I'm telling you. He will take them just to get them, but he doesn't want them.
Yeah, look. Brandon Cutler will probably go, right? Then Michael Nakazawa, and I know what you're going to say.
They don't want either one.
He's got connections with Japan, so that's an Abbey that's going to be lost, and he's a backstage personnel as well. Who else go? Maybe Hangman. I don't know. Hangman's really good friends with him. He might. Don't know. I personally hope for God heavens he doesn't go. But there will be other people that support the Elite. Jungle Boys, been very vocal support for the Elite as well. And there's other people there that are, the whole female roster as well. There's and the Joshi side. What the Joshi wrestlers going to do as well? They might jump ship as well.
Cody is an X factor. WWE did not just sign Cody Rhodes, the wrestler. They signed Cody Rhodes, co-founder of AEW, who has significant ties to a ton of the homegrown talent, including a certain Maxwell Jacob Freeman, who's a free agent come January 1st.
And there's an even bigger tie with another member on the AEW roster who won last night, who
Ricky.
Trying to talk in code here, so But anyway, that brings us to the end of today's show. Thank you,
Wait,
everybody.
one more thing.
We can't. Time's up. Time's up. So,
ROH Honor Club got 12,000 people subscribing to it.
we'll be talking about that on Tuesday. So we'll be talking about that on Tuesday. So that's not actually a good number. It's not profitable. But thank you, everybody, for watching. We will see you again on tomorrow's episode. We'll be back normal time. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow.